Hi all, and welcome to this pre-E-Day event. So, today it's my turn to reply to all of your questions, and I think we can start. And by the way, I have a question before. Are you excited for the E-Day? Okay, cool. So, let's start with Discord. Give me a second to share the screen. Here. Okay. Here we are. So, the first question is from Isolating. NFT projects have started to add DeFi element on governance elements to it. Where do you see it's going, and what could Item V2 and AleToschi add to it? Yeah, I think this is a great question, and also is a very huge question. My personal vision of the NFT market in general is that NFTs in some ways are an evolution of the ERC20 standard. And I think we see right now into the industry as two different industry, totally separated from the ERC20 industry and the NFT industry. I think at the end of the day, they are both object on top of Ethereum. And why we see this as two different industry is because basically Ethereum is new, all of these standards are new. But I think in the future, no matter if it's a governance token or a game object, but both of the two will share the same technology in terms of token standards and in terms of DeFi trading, DeFi interactions, and all of these things. This is why we made and we are continuously improving the item standard, because basically is I think the natural evolution of object on top of Ethereum, because you have all of the capabilities. I mean, I can say all of the unexplored capabilities of the new standards like 1155, and you have also all of the retrocompatibility, so interoperability with the old standards, so ERC20 and all of DeFi application. So for example, something that we added to Item V2, and I don't think we talked too much about this, is the batch transfer, an evolution of the batch transfer, because the basic batch transfer from, for example, the 1155 standard is based on the fact that into a collection, you can transfer a lot of objects to an address. But for example, in Item V2, you can transfer a lot of objects between different collections to not just one address, but to different address. into one transaction that is basically cheap because it's a batch transaction. And I think these are the capabilities that NFTs have and DeFi needs. And so I think NFTs industry is going to DeFi industry, and DeFi industry is going to NFTs, because at some point there will be just object on top of Ethereum and just games, financial application, and these kind of things. So I think it's pretty natural that they are merged, and the NFT space is using governance, and also the DeFi is using NFTs. So I think for both industry, switch to the item standard, for example, and also using organizations from ETOS, from Ethereum OS. I think it would be so cool for them, because if you are running a game, you can add native more interaction with the finance on top of Ethereum, and so you're not so only into the OpenSea or this kind of, how can we say, slow finance that we have into the NFT industry. But you can have objects that actually have liquidity, tangible liquidity, and I think this will be so important to add new features into games, and also governance. So I think in the future we are working to build this kind of scenario where you have objects that are both used for governance, both used into games, and both used into finance. And so you can govern a game with, I don't know, rare objects, rare items, and not to create different items like RC20s, NFTs, and these kind of things. I think at some point this will be so important for this industry to integrate with. Just give me a moment. So, what are the parallels of ETOS to traditional operating system? How does ETOS bridge Ethereum developer like a traditional OS bridge hardware developers? Okay, so I think I got this question. Yeah, Ethereum OS, or ETOS, is an operating system to build on Ethereum, because the traditional use of Ethereum from developer perspective is to having standardized contracts like the classic Ethereum improvement proposals and ERC, for example, for tokens in this case. And so into the Ethereum community, people build these new standards, and people take these contracts, changing some part of them to achieve their own business needs, and publish on Ethereum. I think this is a good way to build on Ethereum. It's work, but also it's not the perfect way to build on Ethereum, because even if you have these standards that are shared between different applications, like the ERC standard. So if you have the ERC transfer call, Uniswap is an application that can host your liquidity of your token, for example. The problem is that even if these standards are there, this is not a secure way to code. It's not a secure way to use Ethereum and to build things on top of Ethereum. And so in this case, what Ethereum SOS bring to the Ethereum is the idea to have everything that works on Ethereum that is built on top of factories. And this means for non-coders, factories are contracts. Like, for example, when you create a farming contracts using covenants, you are using the covenants factory to build your own farming contract. And so what does this mean? That the most important part of the code, I mean, the logic of the code is into the factory. And when you create your farming contract from the factory, you are cloning all of this important part. And this means that people are totally secure if the factory is secure, because you are cloning this. And factories have some parts of it that can be customizable when you clone this code. Like, for example, in covenants, you can customize the token reward and all of these things for your own business proposal. But the core is secure. And I think that Ethereum at some point will become this kind of factory-based Ethereum, where when you build an application, you don't need to be sure and basically testing the same contracts and the same things that other coders did before, but you just use a factory from something that is already there to clone this code and use it for your own purpose. This is why Ethereum SOS is so important, in my opinion, because we are building this factory-based new Ethereum way of coding. And I think this will be a very huge part for the next year into Ethereum, because this idea to have this, because the idea of Ethereum SOS is to have these factories that anyone can build, anyone can add their business logic into it, and also the business logic into it if they want, or they can just do it for free. And so people can start their own applications starting by these factories from their own needs, and also extend these factories if they need. And I think this will bring this basic security layer of Ethereum that will be so important for the future. So imagine if you are secure that every ERC20 you have on Ethereum, they started from a factory contract. And so you are secure that nobody have scam calls, like a lot of calls that you can see into the memes bubble, like into all of the dogs and these kind of things. Imagine if you going to buy into these tokens, you are totally secure that all of the basic functionality you need as a user are there, and they can be changed when they clone this code. And so you can say, okay, I like this dog, or okay, I like this project, and I'm secure about this basic layer, because coders can't in any way change this part of the code that they cloned. And so I think this will be very huge for the future of Ethereum. And so that is the basic core of Ethereum SOS in terms of operating system. And also, obviously, to build an operating system, you need some basic apps. And I think that it will be crazy for you when you will see this new version of organizations, because organization is now ready to be a real general purpose protocol to manage permissions. So it's not like a DAO or something like this. It's a real permission protocol. So you have different layers, both both vertical, both horizontal, about permissions, and everything can have different permissions, different tokens, different way to host this. And so you can build on top of this from the most decentralized or democratic application, or the more centralized one. And it's very easy for people to see what's the permission system of this application or governance they are into, and choose with a very knowledgeable perspective of a project or another. Thank you for the question. I hope I totally responded to it. If governance is solved with the AleToschi architecture, then do you see ETH 2.0 using a DFO to manage proposal, validator, code implementation, network consensus? Yeah, that's an interesting question. So the governance of a blockchain, it's very difficult. It's very different from the governance of the application layer into a blockchain. So, for example, the governance of Ethereum, both Ethereum 1.0 with the proof of work and Ethereum 2.0 with the proof of stake, it's based on stakers and on miners for the 1.0. And so this governance is already working from miners and in the future to validators. And it's worked pretty good because it's the basic part of the blockchain space. And Ethereum SOS is for the application layer governance, because the blockchain layer governance already works since the day one of Ethereum, basically. You skipped my first question, Ale. So give me a oh yeah, sorry, sorry. It's I've been working for all of the night yesterday, and so I'm pretty tired because I want to make sure that everything will be perfect for the 21. So sorry, I didn't do it because I want to just a little bit tired. So let's go to the previous question. Hey, Ale, I asked this question to Vasa as well, but it can be cool to have your opinion as well. What are your differences with the regular Open Zeppelin proxy contract architecture? And even more importantly, I guess, what are the differences between the Diamond multifaceted proxy architecture? Okay. So, yeah, sorry, I didn't want to skip that. Yeah, proxy is like a standard way to code into Solidity. So so proxy contracts are everywhere in every application you use. It's just a way to say, oh, okay, we have this proxy, and so this contract that can call these different contracts, and that's it's like a way to code into Ethereum. It's not kind of like a thing that we invented or someone invented into Ethereum. It's something that you can do basically with Solidity. So it's not something that is based on our project, but it's something that every project has. So talking about the Diamond standard, yeah, I read a lot about these Diamond standards, but personally, so Diamond standard is a way to have this evolved way to use proxy contract, and I think for thank you, Dan. And I think that for some use cases it's cool. But the diamond standard uses too much, I think, in terms of security, the delegate calls, which I think in Solidity, the delegate calls is something that should be used not too much. And so, yeah, can work the diamond standard for different applications, but is not the standard we decided to use for example, organizations. Because we prefer to basically create a different version that, in our opinion, can work better than the diamond standard. So, are you still looking into Optimism for a layer 2 scaling solution? I noticed that they are releasing the EVM equivalence architecture, so it should be very easy to port. Yeah, I can only say one word, and this word is colonies, but I can't share anything about this at the moment. In the previous MAA, you talked about meritocratic governance and on-chain rules to special rules voting power. Can you tell more about your governance framework and the rules you implemented? And also, how could people use those? Yeah, that's a great question. I think, yeah, we have Baza Power here. Thank you to be here, bro. I think that's a great question, because what we built is the general purpose. The general purpose framework to design your own permission architecture. And so you have these different layers that you can build into an organization you want to build, which are basically the root layer, which is the old DFL layer. And so this is a layer that can have hosting permission, so it can work as a multi-sig wallet, or you can have a multi-sig wallet plus a token, or you can have only a token to manage, for example, coding things. And you can use it for a totally open to code governance, which can be cool in some ways, and it can be very, very how can I say, scary in other ways. And you can design this based on what you need. And also you have the DAO layer. That the DAO layer is basically a fixed way to govern. So you can build every DAOs, and you can rule by, for example, the host of the root layer, or you can set a different permission system from every of these, based on, for example, to update them. I mean, so for example, from host to host plus a token, so an agreement, or token only. And inside these DAOs, you have the how can I say? I missed a word. Sorry. And inside this DAO, you have the proposals, which are fixed, and these proposals can be only token holders plus host, or host only. And so, based on this very open way to build a governance, you can host into this protocol everything, basically. So from a governance like the Ethereum SOS governance, which is more ideal from decentralization and agreement with hosts, and you can have a totally host-based governance that can be used for legal organization, for example, because they have this legal layer that make people secure that they don't do scams. Or you can build a 100% decentralized project in any way possible. And so it's not kind of like into this framework what we want to build, but it's what you can build on top of this. And the most cooler part of this, because of the factory-based architecture we have, is that it will be very easy for people to scrutiny every organization and every application that will be there. And so this is why I think it's so important, because in Ethereum we have a lot of DAOs at the moment, we have a lot of projects, but it's very difficult for people to scrutiny them and to understand in a very clear way what's the point of centralization and how much they are decentralized, for example. And I think this will be very important for people. Also, what will look like your mainnet fork to observe proposal on mainnet state? We can already easily fork mainnet with hard hat that will be value you to add. I think I don't know if I 100% got this question. I have to be clear. Everything can be forked on Ethereum. So every dApps can be. I think what you are building is a platform, and a platform is it's more difficult to fork because you have a lot of things into it. So I don't know if this is the answer you want. So please write it to me if I didn't answer your question, because I have to be clear, I didn't get it. Can you speak more about colonies? The answer is no, at the moment. But I can say a thing. I can say a thing about this colonies thing. So colonies is the perfect metaphor to understand what colonies is. So imagine states that have colonies, and so you have a states in a layer, and what colonies will do for the other layer, you will see. Okay, you should at some point that you will build a way to fork Ethereum mainnet and test. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, that's multiverse. Yeah, yeah. Okay. It's kind of like it's not a mainnet fork in terms of we are forking Ethereum and we are building another Ethereum or a blockchain into it, but it's a very simple way to basically fork very quickly into your browser Ethereum virtually and test a proposal or an application into your local network, and to see what will happen after, for example, a proposal, or what will happen into the space when you are building an application for people. And I think it will be cool. You will see it in the future. And yeah, we are using it, by the way, at the moment, and it's very cool to build with this multiverse thing. And so you will see it live at some point. It will be very cool to share with anyone in the world. Are factory standard terminology, or it's your invention? No. It's way to code into Ethereum and to code into Solidity. So it's not our invention. Our invention is the factory of factories, and this core of Ethereum OS. So it's not factories in terms of building factories on Solidity, but is this idea to have connected factory built by the factory of factories. So if we were to shield this project to another one, would the programmers of the other project automatically understand what factory is? I think, yeah, for sure. Who spotted the OS exploit and how? Yeah, that's a funny question. The OS exploit was spotted by Vasapower and basically testing. Yeah, and these were very hard days for us because we put a lot of effort to be sure nobody lose money in any way because of this exploit. And I'm very happy we did it in a very cool way and in a matter of days. So Vada said during the previous interview that you are not using proxies anymore for activities. What are you using now? And also, how is it more flexible than proxies? I will just continue updating this message because I'm currently reading the docs and I have 1 hour limitation for posting here, okay? You say in the factory explanation, an extension can be coded freely by the developer according to the needs of the project by being able to use the underlying secure cloned contract. And you also say this, a developer will never be able to modify the core to include malicious behavior such as rug pull or similar. How can be sure that a developer can add function extension that, okay, yeah, that's a really cool answer. Sorry, question. So, when you build a factory, you can extend the logic of the factory. But extending the logic of the factory, you can't basically building a hack between the core of the function of this factory. So the extension is possible, but is limited between more functionalities and not to change the functionalities that are already into the cloned part of this. So you can customize extended part of the main application you're building, but not the core of the application itself. So this makes you flexible, but at the same time secure. What would have to be the scenario regarding the exploit fund, where instead of the swap to newer OS token, the token contract or token code could have just been updated without need to another swap claim? Oh, I don't think that's Ethereum. Would the same steps to be taken into the future if a similar scenario could place into the now and easier? So, okay, no, this is not possible on Ethereum, and I think nobody, that's my personal way of seeing Ethereum, nobody should have the power to do something like this, so to change things into a working contract. I think these are the basic on the culture of it in general. Have any NFT projects with novel ideas for utility experimenting with the Ethereum standard yet? I think there is tools useful for the NFT DAO combinations gaining popularity lately, I believe it will bring a lot of attention. Yeah. You can, so people can start experimenting, like using game objects into governance, or game objects and directly into farming and to MMs. So yeah, I think there are tons of things to experiment. So right now we are doing everything in private, doing the testing and all of the things. And I think after this release, which is basically at the moment our main focus right now, we will talk and try and also help different teams to experimenting using this technology. So will be there an option to create the model / proof of concept of some simple / complex project with no need to spend gas with the Ethereum network in the R&D stage? So will multiverse be so complex that it will be enough to test the model before going into layer 1 Ethereum? Yeah, so basically multiverse is like a testing framework. So obviously you can test without any need of gas usage, because you are basically running Ethereum locally into your browser, and so you're not using the mainnet of Ethereum. Do you think the first week after the E-Day gonna be very dynamic on the platform? Will need low gas, but few months start being using a lot? I don't get this question. Do you think the first weeks after the E-Day gonna be very dynamic, or the platform will need low gas plus a few months to start? Oh, okay. I don't know actually, because it's depend on Ethereum. I think obviously Ethereum will have this gas issue for some people, because using Ethereum is very expensive. But all of the money we are spending on gas, it's basically an investment on the security of Ethereum. And so I think if you're building an organization for a project you really you really believe in, I think spending some gas to deploy it is not a big deal. I think layer 2 like rollups will help, but I think this is basically Ethereum, so the gas is part of the game. I don't understand how to create a custom factory. Okay. Do I have to call a function from your own factory and passing the bytecode of my function so that I create my custom functions? Not exactly. You have to build your own factory contract. So just give me a second. I understand how to create a custom factory. So, okay. I want to put some order into your question. So we have this, there are 3 layers into this conversation. The first layer is the factory of factories, which is basically a factory with circumstandards to create factories and to basically have track of all of the factories into basically the factories marketplace, if you can call it like this. And when you build the code of your factory, you are basically integrating some standard calls into the factory you're building. and you can publish it using calling the factory of factories. Okay, and at the end of the day, when an organization or an application want to build the business logic based on your factory, they can call your factory and create their own contract. So, for example, there is the factory of factory, then there is the covenants factory, and then there is the covenant farming contract, which is made by the covenants factory. Second question, what do you think of the loot approach for in-game items interoperability, where tokens are standard and as simple as possible, and for developer to interpret compared to items? Yeah, I think it's not about the tokens, the challenge to games interoperability, but it's about metadata standards. I think because into different games you have different graphics frameworks. And so I think the most important things to achieve interoperability is to have this kind of on-chain metadata that can be rendered into different graphics, and also they can have this information about the usage of this object. So it's more like a real metadata thing that how the NFTs are transferred to be interoperable between games. I think obviously I'm talking as a huge fan of items. I think items are basically more and more the perfect object on top of Ethereum for any use case possible. So I can't compare with others because they are basically different or just a simple standard, simple to the others try to having attention into the Ethereum ecosystem. I guess the new platform you are going to deliver will have several functions and contracts. Are they also made into factories we can use? Yes. Example, the inflation is split between several vaults using a spatial splitting contract. Yeah, the split contract is something you can you clone from the factory when you build an organization. And I think it's a core part of this. Sorry if it wasn't the topic for today, but I got a lot of feedbacks that our Discord is hard to access. Is a Discord revamp is planned? Yeah. So this is a great question because it's something that I wanted to share based on the community part. When we start our Discord, we started basically casually adding these rooms and this stuff. So right now we are making a very cool revamp of Discord, especially to make you possible to communicate into the governance side of the sub-DAO level of the ETOS organization. And so give us the time between the release and I think a week after, to have a complete revamp of Discord and to having something that really works for the needs of this community. So don't worry, the revamp is coming. The reorganization of Discord is coming. Let's see some YouTube questions. Okay. You will offer to project which want to build on AleToschi layer 1 to make the proof of concept on some layer 2. If it works, there will be a switch to just place everything same on layer 1. The answer is also colonies, but I can't share more information right now. But trust me, it will be very cool. Are there devs on ground to use these factories after the E-Day? Yeah, there are tons of people that are waiting for this release. But obviously right now we are focused on it and not to following other projects. Okay. Will you offer to project which want to build on AleToschi to make the proof of concept on some layer 2? Okay, you said the same question into there. So in this release, Ethereum OS is on layer 1, okay, and colonies will be the layer 2 thing. The only thing that I can say, if you understand the metaphor of colonies, is that layer 2s and our view of layer 2 is not to just take an application and copy and paste it into layer 2, but is to make as cool as possible the interoperability between layer 2 and layer 1, and a realistic use case between the existence of these two. And is basically colonies. For factories, how you can ensure that people still have lots of flexibility while still restricting core functions? Oh my God, DSI. So, okay, I will try to explain how factory works. So just give me a second, DSI, but I have to. What prevents a colony to declare its independence? That's a good question. And we will discuss about these things in the future. So I will try to be as clear as possible, even if I have a tremendous EDH today. So when you build a factory, you're building for other people, okay? A clonable contract to create different kind of applications, or one kind of application usually. So for example, we have, let's take covenants as an example of this. Covenants farming is a factory, okay? So when you want to create your own factory contract using covenants, you are calling the covenants factory and asking to the factory the core of the code, which is cloned, and saying to the factory, for the customizable part, I want this, this, and that. And also you can attach to your specific contract clone to it the extension, and the extension can extend the logic. But extend the logic can't change that when people enter into your farming setup, they put their money there securely, and they can take back the money. But you can extend to, for example, an external contract which create different farming setups based on voting into a DAO, or a game that create different setups of farming based on, I don't know, computational things, and so on and so forth. And this is basically a factory and how a factory works and why it's secure. Because when we talk about flexibility, flexibility is not like, so we are trying to reach the deal, the right deal between flexibility and security. Because on Ethereum, it's very easy to build flexible things. You just add more functionalities. The challenge on Ethereum is to build things that can be very, very scalable, very, very expandable, very, very kind of like the base layer to build complex things on top, but maintaining as much as possible the security for people. And that's the challenge on Ethereum. That's the challenge we are approaching too. Really off. Okay, I already read this question. So I see something someone is writing. No. Okay. So okay, just give me a moment. I just keep typing. Okay. No. Will AleToschi be designed for no coders to be able to use, assuming that others have already built the factories for the function? Yeah, you can easily add and manage the permission of your different application that you clone from factories. And so imagine that factories is not just a way to ensure to make people secure about the core of an application that you can clone, but also a way to create a real, we can say, marketplace of functionality, because someone can create farming contract like we have farming contract like covenants, and someone can create, I don't know, a different application that interact with different protocols, and you can, as you can go to covenants and just building your farming contract for your user, you will be able to do the same with a lot of factories. And so, yeah, it's for non-coders too. So, okay, thank you to be here. I think we can finish this MAA. Sorry to be a little tired today, and I hope I answer to all of the questions as more correct as possible. But I'm realistically working very hard in this day to reach this release as cool in the coolest way as possible. And I kind of like excited for this release because it's basically a very important day for all of us. And so, see you next. Thank you to be here. And see you for the E-Day.